It ain't even face to face.
Yeah, I hear you.
We're back live. We're back
What's going on,
live.
guys?
We'll let this build up for a second here and see if we get some folks back in here.
Right on.
But,
well, I'll keep refrigerator shopping until then. No, just kidding. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the Steiger household right now.
Right.
No, we're actually about to move. Actually, we in April we sold our house and to a couple of my old students, and ended up buying a house that's kind of down the road a little bit, but and then all the stuff we were just kind of talking about kind of happened, and put a hold on some things for a little bit. But yeah.
Oh man. Well, we got some folks back in here, guys and gals. Hoover had some technical difficulties with the signal, so he is going to be on next Thursday. He said to make up for it, tune in. He's going to have some stuff to give away. Oh, yeah. So in return, we got you something even better. We got Aaron Steiger in the house.
Guys, what's going on?
So real quick, Ryan Milford put a quote in here, or a question. Y'all need to go pee. So that's a topic that we talk about quite a bit when we're talking about Ryan Milford. I don't know if you remember this, but you were doing a podcast with him. I forget what you guys were talking about on the.
We were talking about jerk baits, I think.
Yeah.
Jerk bait fishing. Yeah.
And then in the middle of it, he just kind of like ran for the door.
Listen, I remember he's like, "Hey, just a second," and didn't say what he needed or whatever. And I was like, "All right, no big deal." And he came back. He's like, "I had to go to the bathroom." I don't blame. I mean, we were talking for a while, and I don't judge, because it seems like every time, like, I'm even fishing, I'm peeing every like 30 minutes. I'm off the water, I'm fine. I get on the water and I think I just get nervous. I'm like peeing off the side of my boat all the time. It's all good, Ryan.
Well, it's funny because I remember editing that, and I'm like, he's like, you're gonna have to take out this time slot. So I go to that, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And you were like mid-sentence, and you were just like, you had this sense of worry, like, what's his house on fire?
All right? Yeah, right. He didn't tell me. He's just like.
So it's funny, man. It's funny.
Yeah, it was good.
We got Brad Hicks in the house, Richie Lockery, Miss Jean Wilson. She said, Aaron, great to see you. Edwards, Aaron Steiger, good dude for sure, man. So we were talking about this right before we fired up, man. You've been battling Lyme disease, man. That's some crazy and scary stuff, man.
It is. It is. It's like we were talking about. It was in mid-May, right when the weather started getting better, and so obviously we're all out as kayak anglers, especially in the north. We're just like chomping at the bit from like November to March. We're just like, we want to get out. And finally, in April and May, it starts getting a little better. So I was out, and I discovered like a little pond in my area that I caught like a 6-something pound bass out of it. So I, like in April, or I think it was April, and so I kept going back to it because there was a lot of big fish in it. It wasn't just one. And I'm like, man, I want to keep fishing this thing. So I went to the pond, took my kids one day, and we were just bluegill fishing, like just for fun or for little bass or whatever. I had my crappie rigs out and everything. And so anyway, we get back in the truck, and I look down, and I had pants on and stuff, but there were just ticks just all over me. And my kids had a couple of them on them, and I was like, holy crap. It's like, as Jay was saying, it's like your worst nightmare as an outdoorsman, because it takes that long for those things to just get where you can't find them or can't see them, whether it's in your armpit. Well, I thought I got them all off, and there was like over a dozen of them just all around the car and on me and my kids. And so I thought I got them all. I took my time to get.
It's one of those days.
I guess, man, we can't win.
Okay, it's
there
back.
You go.
All right. Anyway, okay. So anyway, we're sitting there. Thought I got them all off. Like a few days later, I pick one off the back of my head, and I was like, oh crap, because obviously like it tagged me. I still got a little, like a mark on the back of my neck where I picked it off from. And I was like, okay, I just hope that I hope it didn't have, that the certain bacteria that carries Lyme's disease. And well, a couple of days later, I started feeling just kind of weird. I didn't quite feel right. And so I called my doctor up and I was like, hey, look, I think I got bit by a tick. He put me on 10 days of an antibiotic called doxycycline. And that's supposed to just knock it out. Well, it didn't do anything for it. It did nothing. By the end of the 10th day, it was like the beginning of June at this point. I was basically seeing like blue spots. My entire field of vision was almost blue. Like I couldn't hardly see anything. My whole face was numb. Like the entire thing, just numb. My arms, hands, my joints, my hips were hurting. My knees were hurting. I was dead tired, like just winded, like doing nothing. I was winded. I did a little Facebook Live video, I remember, and I was just doing some electrical work. And by the end of that Facebook Live video, I was just like, I had to lay down. And so I went to the doctor and I was like, look, this is getting a lot worse. So he sent me to an eye doctor and they did some scans on my eyes and stuff. And like my optic nerve is way swollen. And I had a bunch of inflammation in my eyes. And I guess this bacteria can go wherever it wants to. It can go in your brain, your eyes, your joints, your heart, everywhere. And it really did. It hit my nervous system really hard. And because there's 3 stages to Lyme's disease. Like the first one, you're just kind of like, you got a little fever, you got a little bit of just kind of flu symptoms. And most of the time, doxycycline can just kind of knock that out. Well, that didn't do it for me. Like mine went straight to my nervous system. And so the eye doctor said, if you don't get this corrected, you can lose your vision. And I was like, holy crap. So she said, the only way to do that, though, is to get an IV line in your arm or wherever and do that intravenously for an amount of time, because there's like this thing called the blood, like the brain blood barrier is what they call it. And oral antibiotics can't cross that barrier very well. So you have to get it straight IV. So I got like a PICC line in my arm for a month. And so I was in the hospital for a couple of days to get that in and make sure the antibiotic took. Then went home for 4 weeks, laid down every single day. It was just crazy. So then I had to get MRIs because they weren't sure why the inflammation in my eye wasn't going down. So they were like, is it a tumor in his brain? Is it like, so I had to get an MRIs. I had to get CT scans. The first day I had my antibiotic, we accidentally mainlined a bunch of air from the line straight into my arm, which goes straight to my heart. And I almost had a heart attack. And so I had to go back into the hospital, get a bunch of CT scans on my chest this time. And it was just like, oh my gosh. So I'm just finally, like 7 weeks later, just getting to where I can like kind of exercise lightly, which I tell my wife like kayaking is exercising lightly. So I get to go exercise lightly. But I'm hydrating a lot. I talked to a good friend, Jeff Little, who actually had Lyme disease, and he made a post on it on Facebook back in April about his experience 4 years ago. And so I'm still dizzy. I'm still getting over it, I guess. And they said it could take up to 6 months to get over all these symptoms completely, which I'm functional, so that's good. But it's just as an outdoorsman, and obviously you guys and anybody listening to this podcast, my doctors basically said, look, it's a serious thing. It's very prevalent in the East Coast. It's very prevalent in the South, the West Coast, kind of where we're at. It's here. And he said it hasn't always been super prevalent in Ohio, but it's here to stay in this area. I was literally, he's been a doctor for 30 years. I mean, since I've been a little kid and I grew up in this town, and he was my doctor. And I was the first case of Lyme's disease that originated in Ohio. It just wasn't very prevalent, and it's definitely here now. So basically, we just need to be careful as outdoorsmen what we're doing, double check, because if you don't, like a lot of people who have had Lyme's disease have kind of reached out since I got it. and kind of came out of the woodwork, and they've kind of shared their experiences. And some of them are scary, man. Some people are in wheelchairs. Some of them like cognitively just declined. I mean, it can totally screw you up. And so if you're out camping, I mean, something as easy as just, I mean, I only walked, 40 feet to my truck to this pond, once I was there. And I must have just walked through a little like nest of them, and all of a sudden I was covered in them. So just be careful out there, because, we all care about each other and we want what's best for everybody here. And just, I don't mind just sharing that out so people can kind of get that message, that especially in these warm months when we're all out and just without any regard, because we love the outdoors, and whether it's just on a hike or whether it's out fishing or going through brush, just check yourself very closely. And I guess what I also found out was, you can see these deer ticks that are, I don't know, probably up to a centimeter or so. I mean, or maybe half a centimeter, but there's like baby ones that are like the size of like a little poppy seed. Yeah. And those are the ones that'll get you that you're not aware of. And so who knows how many of those little guys are running around, in addition to the bigger ones you can see. So just be aware of it. If you start developing symptoms like that in the summer, just go get it checked out. Just go get a blood test. That's what you do. It's like $100 or whatever. Even without insurance, it's not expensive, and just get it done, because it's a big deal.
So we got a great question from Gene. Are you able to get rid of it completely, or will it be with you in some form forever?
Yes, you can get rid of it completely. So I was on this antibiotic called Rocephin. So the first round of 10 days is orally, and it's called doxycycline. And normally that, like in 90% of people, it knocks it out if you catch it quick. Yeah. If you don't catch it quick, what happens is those little bacteria are shaped like spirals, like just little like screws basically, and they just go into wherever they can. And what I found out actually from Jeff Little, from his specialist, moving like forward, if you don't catch it fast enough, it goes into your like cartilage in your joints and everything like that, and it hides in there, and it goes dormant for a while it's being treated, and then after your treatment's done, it'll actually come back out and start attacking you again if you don't catch it quick enough. Dude, so if you get to it early, it'll be gone. If you don't, you can fight it for an indeterminate amount of time. I mean, forever, really, because sometimes like what happens is then you're on like antibiotic cycles and it just never really goes away. You're only managing the symptoms at that point. And so with antibiotic and some other treatments, like you can put antidepressants in and anti-anxiety stuff, and just different doctors will prescribe different things. But I'm not at that point yet. And I feel like I'm getting a little better every day. Like it's not even daily, because some days I'll decline, and then some days I feel really good. Not really good, kind of like 70% is really good right now. Sure. So some days I'm like at 30%, and then some days I'm at 70. But each week I'm a little better. I can tell cognitively, physically, especially after getting off that antibiotic for a month. Because it was some pretty strong antibiotic that, getting it IV straight to the heart every day, I was having some episodes where it was causing my heart to like race at like 120 beats a minute for 4 or 5 hours at a time, just toward the end. And my body was like, enough's enough of this antibiotic. So luckily I'm off of that. I'm starting to feel a little better. I'm still dizzy. I hope that'll go away. I'm kind of seeing a specialist to see kind of if it's, if there's something else we can do to treat that. But it's day to day.
Dude, I don't even know what to say, man. Go outside like I think Jay and I were talking about it the other day. I'm like, man, I wonder what Steiger's been up to. Well, now I know.
Yeah, and that's why I was gone for about 6 weeks there. I literally was not functioning. I was laying in my bed doing nothing every single day. My beautiful, wonderful wife was taking care of our 3 kids. That's just man, tough, being as little as they are. But so she picked up a lot of slack. But yeah, I mean, just don't let it, I've been back out to ponds like since then. Like I started just walking pond, like walking around like not the same pond. I'm not going back to that pond again, but walking some other ponds in the area. I started off. You can't let it not. I kind of made it. I was like, I'm not going to let this interfere with what I like to do. You can't let it do that. And so that's a big thing. Just, you got to be smart about it. It's just like anything. It's like, leaving early for a tournament in the morning at 3:30 in the morning. Like, look, there's risk if you're going to hit a deer or run off the side of the road. Like, there's just risks inherent with what we like to do. So you got to be smart. You've got to check and double check, just like you would if you were leaving early in the morning or driving in snow. I mean, it's just, you got to be careful,
Well, dude, I'm glad you're all right, man, or you're getting to that point, where you're doing better and stuff, dude. That's scary stuff, man. I know back in the day, I had a girlfriend, her father had that issue, contracted Lyme's disease, and they almost caught it too late, but fortunately enough, he, over time he came back like you're talking about, man. So.
Right. They said it'll take about 6 months possibly. So, I mean, I'm not there yet, but I think I'll get back to where I need to be. I mean, my main gauge is like, could I have gone to work today? Because I'm a school teacher.
Sure.
So could I have gone to school today? Yes. And if I can say that enough days, like as a group over a certain amount of time, I feel pretty good about it,
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm glad you're doing better and you're on the road to going back to teaching, hopefully.
Yeah, whatever that looks like in the fall.
It's gonna be crazy. Yeah, I've heard so many things, man.
we got our plan now. It's actually good. We have to wear masks, which talking with the mask isn't going to be any fun all day long. But I mean, we're going back 5 days a week. And everybody's going. All the kids will be there. That's what it's all about, man. So nice. I'm excited to get back here in a month or so. But yeah, anyway, let's talk fishing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you said you've been getting your light exercise again, man. Yeah. So where you been fishing? I know I saw a couple pictures, man. You've been catching some fish.
Yeah, we got some good fishing in our area. There's reservoirs around and there's a huge group of them. And so you can just kind of pick whatever one you want to go to. And they're not bass boat. You can't put bass boats on them with big motors. So they're just kind of electric only. And so it kind of allows fish to not be, now it's pressured, but it allows them to be not as pressured. And so I just, get out there and just enjoy it. I mean, they've got largemouth in them, they got smallmouth in them, and they're deep. And so a lot of people they're kind of intimidated about fishing 30 feet deep. Yeah. And especially in the summer, because that's where you have to fish. That's where the fish, I mean, they are. It was 85-degree water yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever. And so you got to go out deep. And so a lot of people after the spring, when they're all shallow, they just kind of stop fishing. And summer's my favorite time to go fish those places because there's not quite as much pressure. And I mean, I put a video out yesterday just on my Facebook, and like when you hook like a 5-pound fish 30 feet deep, I mean, it just cranks your rod like you're using spinning gear, and it's so fun. You just pull it up, and it does feel like you're saltwater fishing because you're using that spinning gear, and it's fun. So that's kind of what's going on. And
what's the Aaron Steiger technique of choice for the middle of summer?
I'm using, different
drop
things.
Shot.
So I do drop shot, but where I go, it's too rocky to drop shot. You'll lose all your weights like all the time. So what I try to do is use like weighted like worms of some sort, like just get them down there because I feel like the worms don't get caught in the rocks quite as easily.
Sure.
And like they do, but then they pull out. It's like they don't get lodged or whatever. So like you could use like a trick worm, you could use whatever. But just something that if it gets caught in there, you can still kind of yank it back out of the rocks. And so that's kind of what I use. Or like a dark sleeper. I like using those. Like a heavy tube. That's something like Mark Zona. He talks about cracking tubes. If you kind of YouTube that. I really like using like 3/4 ounce tubes, just kind of like a big old head in there and just like stroke the tube, and those
Nice.
fish will hammer it. So, I mean, the biggest thing though is you just got to find the bait fish, and you find a ball of bait fish. Like that's kind of what I look for. And if you see the marks under it, you just, waypoint it and then just stay right there and just pick them apart.
Nice.
And it's fun, man. It's summer fishing so fun. It's one of those things where I'm in a stage in my life right now where I feel like I can't go and do a lot of those bigger tournaments. Like I was going to go to lacrosse, by the way, at that BOS event, but if I felt good, I felt really good about that. I went to a KBF event there a couple of years back in 2018 and picked up on a pattern in the second day that I think I got like fourth the second day or something like that. And I was like, man, if there's another event here, I could win this thing. But anyway, that's not deep water fishing. My point is if I could go to Kentucky Lake, or if I could go to, Chickamauga in the summer, I feel like I could do good at some of these events. But right now I got these kids and stuff that I just can't necessarily get out. They're at the age I can't really do that right now. But, I don't know. I guess I feel like in Ohio, we don't really have a lot of lakes, these upground reservoirs that are really deep, but most of our lakes are like 8 feet deep, and they're super pressured. And so it's kind of like, it's so hard in Ohio to fish and not get frustrated in tournaments. It's almost, not to say it's not enjoyable, but it's frustrating. I'm kind of a guy that likes to fish alone anyway. Yeah. And when I got people like 30 yards down each side of the bank, I get it gets in my head. I get frustrated about it. And I'm like, man, this is not what I like to do. But I feel like if I could get out on some of these bigger lakes and have a little bit of space, that'd be a good time. And it'd be fun. But I also got a new kayak, which is kind of cool. I know you guys probably seen it, but it's different. It's different, man.
Don't say the H word.
It's different.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid, bro.
I know.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid.
I like it.
Well, that's interesting, man.
So
it's different, though.
Real quick, I mean, if you guys don't know who Aaron is, he used to be the team manager at Jackson Kayak, left. I mean, I'm sure your free time is much more enjoyable, right? Or you actually have free time now. And
I've
then
gotten actually a lot more family time, which is good.
Yeah. And I know that was huge for you, man. And I think that was awesome to see you take the step back so you can enjoy the family more. Like you said, man, your kids are young. Me personally, I got, my son will be 18 here in a couple weeks and my daughter's 16, so it's like, now it's just like, yeah, whatever, Dad, I don't want to hang out with you, man. So they're at that age now where you got to take advantage of that time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's cool to see you taking advantage of that, man. But then you made the switch into the Hobie. So you're liking it. It seems like you've been putting that thing through the paces for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't going to sell my boat. I mean, I was just going to roll in my big rig because I love that boat. I mean, it's a great boat. I had a Torpedo on the back. I mean, it was the jam. But then I had one of the anglers in our tournament trail kind of reach out to me, and they offered me like a lot of money for it. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess so. I mean, why not? I mean, I can always get back into the big rig again if I want, so it's like, why not? There's no ulterior motive. It was just like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try one out. I still have my cruise. I'm going to go out with my dad tomorrow fishing, and I'll probably fish out of the cruise. You know what I mean? Like he's going to fish out of the Hobie. So, there's no ill will toward anything. And I just wanted to try it out. Now that I've tried it out though, it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to go in a Hobie. I'm such a nerd about kayaking. I had a 50-point checklist that I just made up of things that I thought were the biggest considerations I needed in order to buy a kayak. And I mean, like, I don't know if I still have it.
That sounds like the Aaron Steiger plan of attack.
It didn't.
This is where all his time went.
Yeah.
He was like this. He's like, I got to make a spreadsheet. I
need a spreadsheet. I got so many of those things on my desktop right now from Jackson. Spreadsheet
Steiger.
I can. somewhere on there. I got the JK Media playing on my desktop. I got all this stuff still. Anyway, so I'm sitting here and I'm like, I got all kinds of stuff. 2020 price list for the kayaks. All right. Anyway, so my point is this. It wasn't like just a random decision like, oh, I'm just going to leave and I'm going to go jump in a Hobie. It was not that at all. It was,
right.
I'm going to try something different. This person offered me enough money to where I could buy whatever kayak I wanted just with that money. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try this out. And it was between an Old Town Predator PDL or the Sportsman, which it was coming out. And I was talking to guys like Casey Reed and Jeff Millott and all those guys that are on Old Town. And I was talking to all the Hobie guys I could talk to. I was talking to Kurt Smits and Christine, and I was talking, everybody that I know well anyway. And so I was like, all right. So I made, and I was back and forth. I was like, all right, I'm going to do the Old Town. All right, no, I'm going to do the Hobie. And the Hobie won. It was like 91 out of 100 to like 90 or 89 out of 100 over the Sportsman. So I was like, it was an objective decision. I was like, okay, I'm just going to get the Hobie. Like, it was that simple. It wasn't
simple.
And after the 8-page, I think I DM'd it to Jeff Millott, like my thing, and he's just like, dude, like, what the heck? Like, what are you doing?
He's like, how do you concatenate these cells?
So it was that simple of a decision. But bottom line is, I am happy with it. It's different not having reverse. That's one thing I really liked about the big rig. One thing I like about the Hobie though, it even the 180, like it turns, like if you just kind of like really lightly pedal, you can almost just kind of like 360 it, even though it's not a 360, it can still turn, which is really nice. So that is one feature I like. One feature I don't like I really liked about the Jacksons is like, I never had to worry about when I was on the ramp, like pulling up onto the ramp or like onto the shore. Cause I always feel like, even though I have those kick up fins on it, I feel like I'm going to damage it. And I forget, like, I mean, I just did it 2 days ago. I pulled right up onto the ramp and drilled the fins onto the concrete. I'm like, gosh, dang it. There's just more things you have to think about. But it's a good fishing machine, man. Like it's efficient. Like I will say that the drive is super efficient. When I say light exercise, I can go a mile and my legs aren't tired, which is like, it's nice, like just being able to go through weeds. That's another nice thing about it. So there's positives and negatives, I like the trailer ability of it, like with my setup that I have. And, it's a good setup. And the other thing is there's just a good dealer. There's a good Hobie dealer down in Cincinnati that's kind of full service. And I think that's a big deal. Now there's a good Jackson dealer there too. There's a good Bonafide dealer, but that's the way I went. And honestly, if they just picked up Old Town, if they would have picked up Old Town in the spring, I probably would have bought an Old Town, to be honest with you, because it was cheaper. And I could have got more stuff with it. But either way, I mean, I'm happy with it. It's just, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. I'm not going to say it's like head and shoulders above everything else, because I loved my big rig. Like I actually think that big rig with the Torqeedo on it, like that's the caveat. With the Torqeedo on the back of that big rig, that was hard to beat. Like that is a hard to beat boat. But the Hobie's a drier ride though too. It's different. The big rig was a little more wet ride. Took some waves over the bow because it was so streamlined. It didn't catch wind very much, but the Hobie's a little more dry, which is nice. And I like the layout of the Hobie is really well thought out. That's the best way I can describe it, because perfectly candid, I had never even pedaled a Hobie until I was out of the Jackson. I mean, I was in a Jackson for 8 years or something, 7 years, and never, I paddled around to Bonafide a little bit and some other kayaks, just for fun, but I had never been in a Hobie. I tried out an Outback. I did not like it at all. Like, I actually hated it.
A lot of people say that.
And I was like, and that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to get an Old Town, because it had like a great warranty, lifetime hull warranty, 5-year drive. I was like, all right, that's the jam. Like, it can hold a power pull on the back. I was like, all right, this is going to be good. But then I got in the Pro Angler and I was like, whoa, like this is different level than the other stuff. Just the layout of it. It's very nice. Some of the areas have a little bit thin plastic, I feel like, and you gotta kind of watch it. Like there's like an area right in the front. I don't know what to call it. Like where if you didn't have pedals, you just put your feet all the way forward. That area, that's kind of thin. And some of the decking feels a little bit thin, like on the front hatch. But besides that, it's very well laid out. I will say that, like, they have all the pulleys going through all the different places that kind of like retract things. There's tensioner knobs for the seat. The seat's really nice. I don't know. It's a different boat, but I'm happy with it, you know, and that's where it's at.
Yeah, man, it's nice to change it up a little bit, you know.
For sure.
You know, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I'm guilty. I just pedaled one. What was it? 2 weeks ago,
Brian.
Well, I couldn't fish out of the blue sky, bro.
Wait, why is that?
Damn clubs.
Wait,
and
what?
Their stupid rules.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, now I'm gonna get fired up. Start throwing stuff. But Susie brought a boat for me to use because I couldn't fish out of the BSB. I agree with you that layout is kind of sweet. Jay and I have talked about it, being able to store your rods in the boat, both on and off the water.
My number one complaint.
I'm like the size of 2 Aaron Steigers, so like the seat wasn't the most comfortable for my butt, you know. But you know, and I got bad knees, so that stair stepping, dude, that put me through a torture. But I mean, I thought it was cool.
That is a different motion. It's crazy because, like, so I had knee surgery after college. I was a runner. I imagine that, right? You know, I'm like 130 pounds.
Couldn't tell.
Right, yeah. But anyway, I had knee surgeries and I had my meniscus all cleaned out and everything, and I was worried about that. Because it's not good necessarily good on your knees. Versus,
let me ask you this: after like you got in the boat, were you trying to do the bicycle pedal like you are in your big rig? Because I caught myself doing that a couple times.
Well, definitely, and it was like the first couple times I went out, I was like, I don't know if I like it. But then, like, now that I've been in it for a little while, it's almost like, I'm not going to say more like a bike because it's not. But, like, I also really like cycling back through college and stuff, and I like road biking. And it feels very similar to, like, that straight down, like, power, like, when you're really cranking on, like, a bike and you're pushing your leg down. You're using the exact same muscle. And so, actually, I've grown to like it a lot more than I did at the beginning. It's different, though. And I will say, though, like, that versus the blue sky. So I was in Ricketts's blue sky when he came up one time, and that's a pretty close. I like the blue sky a lot, you know, like that's a good boat.
Now I'm happy again.
It's a very close, because I remember I was in Ricketts's blue sky and I was like, dang, that is sweet. Like, I mean, so now the one thing against Jackson's drive though is it's not weedless, and so like that was one big frustrating thing that. Around Ohio, where we're at, there's just so many, like, it's just weedy. I mean, that's the best way to describe it. And so that was a big reason why I went with the Hobie 2s, because I felt like up at, like, East Harbor and stuff, it's just pure weeds. Like, West Harbor, pure weeds. And there were so many spots where, like, quite literally, like, I could see Cody Milton and Sean Skidmore winning these events, and I just couldn't go there. Like, physically, I couldn't get there, and it got me so frustrated. And I was like, man, I never thought that I was ever going to leave. It just ended up happening that way. But, like, I was like, I wish I could just get there. Like, I almost contemplated just paddling my cruise so I could fish in those same areas rather than taking, like, my big rig over that way.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's a good solid kayak, but the blue sky's got a lot going for it. Like the one, like how Ricketts has his rigged out, that is a sweet ride, man. Like that'd be hard to beat.
He doesn't paddle anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything. He sits back in the chair, rubbing his beard and eating donuts, you know?
Taking his kids. I mean, and that's the other thing, like,
Yeah,
you know, that
yeah.
blue sky, like, man, I should have bought one before I got off the team. Because, I mean, that was so much more expensive. But I've honestly, I've contemplated, because the Torpedo, like, so how Brad Hicks just bought that Torpedo for the back of his Bonafide, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've really contemplated buying a Kusa HD or something that's got that mount on the back that's still a little bit wide, and putting a Torpedo on the back for like river fishing. Because if you watched like the Susquehanna event at the KBF event that just took place last week, I mean, Russell won, Bill Durbrow won, Matt Ball was like third, and they're all rolling Jacksons with the Torpedo on the back. It's hard to beat like that setup for like bigger rivers or any sort of travel if you're in open water. I mean, really, you can't beat that setup. Like, quite honestly, like you can't beat that setup, especially if you have a pedal drive Jackson that you can go and reverse, because it's just, you can stay on the spot. Like, I mean, you can stay right on the spot. So that would be hard to beat. And I've not right now. I'm not going to do that and get one, but like down the road, I'll probably end up getting, because I have a Cruise 12, but it doesn't have the bracket on the back. So what I'll probably end up getting is something like a Cuda HD or a Kusa HD or whatever, or a Bite or something. Or the Bite doesn't have that, I guess, but yeah, something like that, something cheap that used or whatever. But
I like it.
Point is like, heck, man, like there's so many sweet kayaks out there right now. Like, we're all.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, you've seen a lot of innovation over the past few years, and you know, I was talking about it earlier. You know, obviously you've seen what EJ's come out with, and we talked to him last week.
I didn't see that. What did he say about that? I mean, just like a real overview. Like, what was his take on all that?
He really dove into it, and you know, the way I put it is, it's an exotic kayak, right? Like, it's only going to pertain to a certain amount of people, but when he basically ran us through the boat front to back, why he did what he did and things like that. And there's some stuff integrated into that boat that I think you're going to see a lot of other manufacturers pick up on, which is going to be cool. Like, the big hot topic is the magnets in the actual boat. So you can, you know, put tools there, hooks,
but does that
whatever.
Screw around with your, like, are they strong enough to mess with your phone and stuff? That was one thing I saw that, and I was worried, like, if I put my phone on the floor of the kayak, is it going to, like, mess with it? You know what I'm saying? Like, or like a credit card or like anything that you have. Like,
I don't know. That's a good question.
Can screw stuff up, right? Like, you don't really want to put like a magnet on the screen of your phone because it can mess it up, right? Or am I wrong about that?
I think they're just using small ones, so I don't know.
I have no idea. I mean, maybe EJ's got some top secret thing going on, and he's planning on stealing SIM cards and credit card numbers.
But
that's a good question.
We'll
ask him that when he comes back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his Kickstarter is halfway funded, which is good too. I mean, I think I looked the other day; it's about at $50,000, and he's got a few weeks left or whatever. So I hope he gets it funded, because, like you said, I think, you know, right now it seems out there to us. You know, we see like $11,000 on a kayak, and it's like, no, like, just, I mean, no. But there obviously are. He's got like 30 some backers that say yes, and that means that there is a market for it. You know, looking at how we talked in Jackson, it was one of those things where it's like, you know, we can sell. I guess I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to give away any of those secrets, but it's just one of those things, like, if you sell boats at that price point, like, you can make good margins on it probably, you know, because does it cost $11,000 to make that boat? Heck no. I bet, you know, there's got to be a good overhead because they've got to pay all the engineers that are putting this stuff together and everything. But at the same time, I bet they're making a good amount on those boats too. And so as long as there is a market for it and there's enough people that are willing to buy that premium product, it'll work. I saw a lot of hate on that. And the reality of the situation is you don't have to sell 8,000 boats a year. You can sell 45 of those and make just as much as like Jackson made on the big rig, or just as much as Jackson made on the Coosa HD. You know, selling 400 Coosa HDs versus 40 of those TYRs or whatever. So, I mean, he knows what he's doing. He built one of the best kayak companies in the industry. He's and they put those boats at a price for a reason. So I hope he gets that, all the way to where he's at. And quite honestly, like it'll take off once it does. And I hope all the other companies kind of take notice. That's the same way with biking, and there's carbon fiber bikes out there, and they are a lot better than aluminum bikes.
For sure.
So, or steel bike, like old school. Till you hit a rock. That's right.
I've seen some like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 bikes just turn to complete garbage.
Well, and that's the big thing is like you're not taking EJ's kayak out on the river.
No,
you're taking it out on like the ocean or like a lake.
He did say it was pretty tough. I mean, he said you could bang it up and you could repair it yourself.
I'm not risking $11,000 on that.
I know it's like that's like putting a 20-foot skeeter in the river, and you're like, you know what? It's okay. I bottom it out. It's fine.
I'll buff it out.
Yeah. What was that rock? It's like the 8th one today.
No, I wouldn't be taking. Now, does it look awesome? Heck yeah, I think it looks sweet. Some people are making fun of it. I think it looks cool, man.
I think it looks cool too.
It's going to be fast too, because of the material. It's gonna be. There's gonna be.
It's gonna just.
Porous.
Nope.
Yeah. It's
have
just
you guys ever
plastic?
Have you guys ever paddled a Cuda LT, or like a Kilroy LT, or one of the LT models that Jack used to make?
Yeah, I have paddled the Kilroy LT.
Dude, so the first time I paddled a Cuda LT was in 2014. I was down in Charlotte at Drew's house with Brooks, and I don't know if Jameson was there, but we were filming for one of Drew's episodes, right? And I got to paddle Brooks's Cuda LT, and it was the most responsive boat, hands down, I had ever paddled. And I liked it enough to make me buy one, so I bought one as well. And that's made out of thermoformed plastic, which isn't porous, and it's light. I can only imagine what carbon fiber is like paddling. Yeah. Because I could paddle that so fast, and I mean just one small stroke and I was moving, or one small adjustment and I was turned. And now I sold it, and this goes back to the point of durability. I sold it because it freaked me out, because I didn't want to break it on a rock, because I was using it on the river, and I was like, I just don't want to hit a rock. So I sold it to somebody. So it's a delicate balance, but if you're going to use it for a lake and you like paddling around and you've got cash to drop, and people do, go for it. Yeah. It's going to be an awesome boat.
Yeah. Those thermoform boats are super light. And they say that plastic is durable. I mean, we saw Eddy lines at our shop, and I've paddled a couple of those, man, and they're just like rockets in the water. Granted, they're like, 14-foot touring boats, but like, dude, those things are so light. I'd much rather carry that around than like a big rig,
But that plastic,
that's a different experience.
It makes you like second guess it, because it's like,
it does.
You can just press it in.
Yep.
You're like,
I know. Dude, I know how hard I am on my boats, and for me personally, it would be no way. Like for any of us that like fish all the time, I guess that's what I kind of think about. Like if you're like an everyday angler, like anybody that listens to this podcast anybody that's been on this podcast is that the right boat for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. That's the big question, Yeah.
So you got to make that decision, I guess. But for me, I don't know that it would be. But for some folks that are, like putting it on their yacht and dropping it in the middle of the ocean, and just are going out in the bay or going out in the Gulf or something like that where there's not rocks. But I guess you could run into shell, I don't know, they're like shell bars out there or something.
Yeah.
So maybe not. I don't know.
You know who had one of those is Patrick Tharp, Pooty. He had the real tree one. I loved it.
Dude, that was sweet.
But I know, dude. I tried to find one of those. I couldn't find it anywhere. But
I know.
he used to swear he could paddle that thing over 5 miles an hour. He would
Oh,
race
there's
Hobies.
no doubt.
He would race Hobies.
No doubt. And, it was one of those things where the only reason Jackson stopped making those, and I know EJ talked about how labor intensive making these new carbon fiber kayaks are, but it took 5 times longer to make one of those thermoformed kayaks than it took to make a regular rotomolded kayak.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it didn't make any economic sense to keep making them, even though they're super sweet. It wasn't economical there's no scale that you could make in an efficient manner. Mm-hmm. So, it's man, talking all of this, it makes me miss it even more, but, cause I miss it, man. Like, no doubt about it. Like, I really enjoyed the business aspect of all that stuff, but, it's one of those things, like going back to what we're talking about. It was an interesting, it was just the right call. We had a lot of guys kind of just step away, and none of them had ill will, though. That was the thing about it. You had Damon stepped away. Still, I think he still does stuff kind of with Orion or just kind of representing stuff. And so, then you got EJ obviously still pumping the brand. I've got nothing wrong with the brand. Like it was just a decision. It just seemed like the company was evolving, and in a way I felt like new minds needed to take what I was doing and expand upon it and make it better. We were stagnant, and I needed to make that move, not just for me, but sure. I think also for you guys and everything, as much as I loved it. But then I just felt like staying around would have been like, I don't know, like it would have been weird to me just like to step down and then just kind of stay around. I wanted to, I don't know, be independent. It'd be kind of like
be a free soul.
Yeah. Well, it would be kind of like being a principal of a school and then going back and being a teacher. and you'd be like, who are you to like tell me, like, I was just like, kind of like ahead of that. Like, so I was like, it's better if I just kind of step away.
Sure.
And I'm glad I did. So
I get it,
you're allowed to be happy, buddy.
Yeah.
I am happy, man.
We'll let you.
I am happy.
We'll let you.
Yeah. I'm not, I didn't lose any friends over it. I'm still cool with everybody. Still support all you guys. You guys are obviously still supporting me as well. And I cherished all of those friendships. Like, just,
yeah, man.
You guys are, it's kind of weird. And I've talked to my wife about this. I invested, I don't know, 5 years of my life just being the manager, but then, a couple of years before that, just even like being involved with Jackson a little bit on the team and stuff. And like, I made all of my best friends over the internet and through fishing of people I see at like a tournament once a year. And then I'm like, I don't have any friends like in my community. Like, I really realized that, like, and I was talking to Ricketts, like, I was in like not a good place, like immediately after stepping away. I was like really, and winter's never good, obviously, in the north for any of us. It's just like borderline depressing anyway, because you're not doing anything and watching all the southern guys fish every day still. But anyway, so I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, like I don't have the daily conversations like I had with my friends, like with you guys, with the 150 other team members we had. Like that kept me busy. It kind of kept my mind moving, and it gave me that social aspect. When I stepped away, man, I was like, I told Ricketts, I was like, dude, like I don't have, even in Ohio, I was spending so much of my effort to Jackson. I had not even really, like I forsook all of my friendships in Ohio that I had. Like I was good friends with a lot of guys in Ohio, and I just kind of lost touch with a lot of them. Like a guy like Quentin Eccles or a guy like Sean Skidmore, guys like that. And I hadn't talked to them in like 3 or 4 years, or, maybe just like on Facebook real quick here and there, but like really talked to them, really actually fished with them and hung out with them. No, like none of it. And I didn't have time to do that. So I fully intended to do that this year, but with the COVID stuff, and then I got, this Lyme disease stuff. But next year, hopefully, I'm really looking forward to kind of getting back into the local fold. And also like investing in personal relationships just with people that are like actually not 500 miles away, like people that live down the road, Mm-hmm. So, it's, do I miss it? Like crazy, man. Like I miss you guys. I miss that job. I miss everything about it. and it hurts me, man. Like I miss it. But I'm really glad I stepped away at the same time.
Well, I think it's key, man. I think you found a balance, that you were missing in life, and I totally get that. It's good to see you doing well, though, my friend.
Yeah. For sure. How are you? How's the team going? Because I always ask about that, and you guys are both repping Jackson. So how, from you guys' perspective, what's the Jackson team like? For the audience out there, I know what it's like, but
it's confidential. Sorry.
Oh, whatever. I know how many times we got yelled at on that team page for confidential things that didn't stay confidential.
I'll tell you what, our team lead that we were left with, that guy kind of sucks.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Old Ricketts.
Oh, that's who it is? Oh,
is he the
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Is he the lead? I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta love that guy.
He goes, he's like, I'm listening closely.
So how's it going, Brian?
Yeah.
We'll talk after the podcast.
Yeah.
So how's the team morale, guys?
Oh,
no, but I mean, like, I guess realistically, like, I guess where I was going with that question is like, amidst like everything that's happening, and I am genuinely curious, like, how is this COVID stuff affected like everything, like from that? Because I've removed myself from the promotional and just kind of that side of the industry, so I'm not paying close attention. Like, what is that like right now?
I mean, I'd say the team itself has been kind of quiet lately. I think it's just crazy right now. Tournaments are just getting fired back up. So it was kind of quiet for a while there. From the retail standpoint, it's been absolutely mayhem.
Dude,
people.
Kayak sales are
now are
the
like
warehouse
premium brands
empty.
Like so the Jackson warehouse is empty.
Empty.
Oh,
dude,
yeah.
There was a picture that they showed, and you remember what it looked like in there.
Oh yeah,
it was empty, dude. You can see.
Now here's the question, because I just saw Hook One went out of business today. Did you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So and they said.
Go ahead.
So they said on their Facebook page that the reason they had to go out of business wasn't because they weren't selling stuff. It was because of supply chain issue. Now, is that why Jackson's not, or just not Jackson, but companies in general, like Hook One, aren't like making stuff, is because it's a supply chain issue and that's why there's nothing in the warehouse? Or is it just they're selling like hotcakes? Like, that's, to me, like as a third party now, that's what I'm wondering. Like, what do you guys think about that?
It's interesting. We had a conversation about that in our little group chat.
I don't want to bring it up if it's like confidential or whatever.
No.
I was curious.
Amongst Paddle and Fin hosts, we were talking about that. I mean, I don't think that's a story behind Hook One.
Yeah, I heard something different too.
Really? It's like if you sell out, let's face it, Hook One of the biggest kayak shops around, right?
Right.
They weren't shipping. They were placing orders at the beginning of the season, getting their discounts on the boats. Right. And if you guys aren't familiar, like that's what retailers do. They place their orders ahead of time. They get stock shipments. If they order X amount of boats, like, depending on what brand it is, they'll get discounts on those boats if they order X amount. Well, let's face it, Hook One was a huge store. So whether you sell 50 boats a month or you sell 300 boats in a month, like, I mean, the money's there. How are you going to go broke? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, you still got that income coming in. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, from the standpoint with the shop that I work with, I mean, yeah, we've sold out of pretty much everything, dude. I was at the shop this evening, had to go fix the old trailer lights. Thanks, Travis, for damaging the wire harness. But I walked into the shop, dude, and it's pretty much empty. Like, I have never seen our shop that empty. Now, the downfall is a lot of manufacturers across the board, you're not going to get new shipments till August.
Way late, yeah.
Maybe September.
End of the season.
Unless we get those, stimulus checks second round, if people have.
Right.
I mean, but for real though, I mean, that's why the spring's so good, is because the season's starting, and a lot of people get tax returns, and I mean, if you do, and and you want to buy something, right?
Right,
so,
right.
Well, and that everyone was locked up, and those of us who have been professionally social distancing for years now, we never really saw it as anything different. And then all of a sudden, the
rest of the world got shut down, and
a huge surge.
What are they going to do?
Yeah, they rediscovered they could be outside again.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Or they're like, wait, there's trees out there and water. I can go out there. So,
right.
And then all of a sudden, so I mean, dude, if you're selling a used kayak, it will go like a hot cake.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
right.
will go fast.
Yeah.
You could sell one in a day now instead of waiting like a week or two.
Yeah, I had a buddy with a Frontier 12 sold in less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Posted it up and it was gone.
Yeah, which is great for the industry if you think about it, because, I mean, dare I say it, it's like COVID's like a blessing in disguise, I guess, as far as that goes. But I just pushed people into the outdoors again. And we need more stewards anyways on the water, period, because, again, I always talk about it, little by little, that stuff is legislated out. It's sold away in pieces, and before you know it could all be gone. But more people that are out there now, you got more people fighting for it.
Sure.
So
if they fight for it, if they're responsible about it, because at the same token, you see, 10 years ago, when I first got into kayak fishing, I go out on my river and not see trash out there at all. But now, 10 years later, everybody and their brothers rolling past my house in a kayak on the way to the river, and there's just crap all over the place. And so it's a two-sided thing, man. It's like, as conservationists, we've got to, and I don't know how, like, the platform, we got to use platforms like this basically to say, look, if you're going to be out there, number one, don't litter, don't throw fishing line, don't throw your beer cans, don't, whatever you're doing. And, the second part of that is don't go keeping a bunch of fish, because that resource will go away like that with all the new people that are out there experiencing it. It takes not very long at some of these waterways to ruin them, and deplete them. And so, but the thing is that, and I've tried to figure that out, like, because I've seen kayaking become more prevalent in my area, just like you guys are saying.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it is up in you guys' area too, right?
You should have seen us on the river the other day. It was.
We were like, wait, there's other people out here?
Yeah, we had to wait for people to go by, because we were like, okay, well, they're just blasting music, drinking beers in tubes.
Right.
And it's like, just let them go by. We'll wait.
Right. And I've seen a couple of rivers one river that I've never told anybody about that I go and fish, and it's got big fish in it. I've stopped fishing it because it still has the fish in it, but there's just so many people floating down that river now at all times, every single like roadway, bridge and everything. Yeah. It's just, you can't even do it. So I think it's twofold. Like, I think, the industry in the long run, I think it will kind of use this as like a little germinating moment to like grow from, I think 2 years from now, maybe our tournament trails, as they're all sagging right now, you might get 10 or 12 extra guys because of something like this that bought kayaks and wanted to start getting into it, which is cool, which is great. But like, again, goes back to Ohio, we don't have big enough waterways to support the tournament trails we already have. Yeah. So it's like, what do you do? But, I
think you're spot on, man. I think you're going to see a boom in the tournament trails and the local clubs and all that good stuff. But I think the key is going to be, what we kind of try to focus on here at Paddle and Fin is education and teaching these folks, like wearing a PFD, things like that. Just stuff that we think is just second nature to us, but some folks don't understand why you should wear your PFD rather than putting it in the front hatch or in the back tank well or something like that. It's and not only that, but like you said, man, taking care of the waterways. Let everybody enjoy them instead of ruin them and then hopping to the next spot and doing it all over again.
That's my biggest concern, man. That is
I agree 100%. I mean, the river afloat Jay and I took a couple weeks ago, man. I mean, that's a section of river that's pretty much untouched for the most part, and it's pretty pristine.
Yeah, we had to traverse a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's off the beaten path, you know.
How far do you guys live from each other? Is it pretty close?
Like
who's asking? Who's asking?
Yeah, who's
he's. I mean, what river are we floating here?
I don't know. The Rio Grande. Yeah, it gets real hot. But no, we're like 60. I don't know. It's like 60 something miles. He's like an hour and a half.
Now, how far outside of like Chicago? Because I mean, I generally knew like where you guys were, but like how far outside of like Chicago? Because Rocktown's like an hour outside of Chicago, right?
Like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Depending on traffic. Yeah. It's about an hour. Well, yeah, hour and a half, like from like downtown to Rocktown storefront. Like on the interstate, 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic.
And I'm in the burbs.
Now, do you guys ever make it out to like Lake Michigan? Like, I mean, if you're like an hour and a half, because I guess like I'm about an hour and a half from Lake Erie, and I really like going up there. Do you guys like go up to Lake Michigan at all and like kind of do that thing?
I've been invited to go salmon fishing a few times, but it just never works. But that's up in Wisconsin, like Chi-Town. Yeah. I don't go there anymore. I don't care about it.
Yeah, I asked Dusty Yacker about that. And he had never been out on Lake Michigan for smallmouth fishing as much as he liked doing it. I think he was in a live video, and I was like, "Are you on Lake Michigan?" And he's like, "No, this is St. Clair." And I was like, "Why are you not on Lake Michigan if you're from Chicago?" And just so I don't do. Is it not as good as smallmouth fishing, or what's the deal there?
It can be. I just think a lot of people don't do it, and it's kind of an untouched resource. But it's the smallmouth fishery, like on the actual Chicago lakefront, has come back quite a bit because it's super rocky along there.
And I would say the access points are kind of a pain in the ass.
That's probably the biggest issue.
You just don't even want to be in a truck and a trailer in the city, man. I don't even.
And they'll probably charge you what, $50 to park.
Yeah, I hate even driving my truck in the city.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I've really looked for access points around Chicago because I've wanted to like float down the river and go out. But I'm like, where in the world do you even do that at? Because one of my favorite places to fish on Lake Erie is right out of Cleveland. Just literally like right out of downtown. And you can, and it costs $5,
Yep.
But it's not Chicago, so.
Yeah, I know there's so the Chicago River's got, I mean, it's supposed to be a great float. I think JP just did it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually there's a guy like not too far from here, a few towns over. He actually runs like a huge recreational kayak syndicate, we'll call it. But he's always got like a ton of yaks and he's taking people out there. But there's some access points there. But again, I don't know the city good enough. I mean, it's been quite some time. Back in my younger days, I was out there a lot more. But it was never by the water though. So I mean. It's just a matter of the access points. I'm thinking beaches. I'm thinking, actually, I'm only thinking beaches because there's so many people there.
I love Chicago. I mean, I really like the city, but it's I'm like, how in the world would you do it? Because I'm only 4 hours from Chicago. I'm not that far from it, so it's always been like of interest to me, but I just don't know how to go about it.
I don't know. I think your better access point is going to be hitting the Michigan side. It's way more pristine. It's way nicer. It's just everything.
It's beautiful up there on that. Yeah, that west coast of Michigan's like
the water's clear.
It's like the Caribbean, except for it's 50 degrees.
Yeah, or like if you go all the way up to like Ludington or somewhere to Traverse, the water's like crystal clear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Michigan's different.
Yeah, but I know. I mean, I like I said, I don't have much experience to talk about it, but I know I got a few friends that still get out there, and I mean, they talk about the largemouth in the harbors.
Yeah,
there's a good
Lake
largemouth
Erie's just
population.
like that too. It's interesting talking about Lake Michigan. Like Bill Schultz from the team, he's up on Sturgeon Bay, and he said that consistently pretty much I've known Bill for like 4 or 5 years now, and he says that fishery has gone downhill for the last 5 years consecutively. And the other thing that's happening on Lake Michigan and all the Great Lakes, including St. Clair, is the shorelines are starting to erode. So he's got a beachfront property up there. And like 5 years ago, I remember he showed me a picture of it, and he probably had, 100 and some feet. He's got like 30 feet before his house now, and he's got big rocks and everything. It's starting to erode. And so like the water level's up, but the pressure, I think something's happening to those fish up there as well.
It's somebody was talking about, I forget who was talking about that. The water's up like 3 feet or something.
Oh, it's crazy. And it's tearing the beaches away on Lake Michigan specifically. And I'm just wondering like what the quality, because Bill used to be pulling in huge smallmouth, and every year he's like it's less and less and less and less, and some of it's pressure is what he says, but then I wonder if another part's like environmental. I guess I don't know.
But I mean, it's a huge gargantuous lake,
It
crazy deep. So what's to say those fishes haven't moved?
Right. Yeah. And those fish can spawn in 30 feet of water or 3 feet of water. So like, I don't know, like it might be pressure because like Sturgeon Bay was in the Bassmaster, like I think it was #1 for like a couple of years in a row. And then they had some events on it, and then I think it wrecked it. So it goes back to like pressure again. Like, what does that do to a fishery with all these new kayakers coming in and crowded fisheries like Illinois, like Ohio, where we don't have the Tennessee River to pick
huge
from,
bodies of water.
It kind of worries me a little bit in that regard, but it is good that the sport's still getting bigger though. But
I mean, here's the thing though. Me and Brian talk about all the time. Everybody's on the lakes. Nobody's on the rivers. I mean, well, used to be.
Sure. Yeah, right. But I mean, COVID happened,
But still, I mean, I'd still put a river up against the lake any day.
In what regards? In what regards would you? As far as quality, or as far as?
I think everything. Just the quality, access. Just the overall experience. It's more intimate. Obviously, you're going to see more wildlife in a situation like that. I don't know. It's just easy to kick back on a river. It just feels more like genuine.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that sentiment. Now here's a question.
Okay.
Here's another question then. All right. So do you think a river smallmouth or a lake smallmouth pulls harder?
I'm going to have to say a river just because they're so used to running up against current.
What do you think, Brian?
Everything feels big in a damn river, though.
It's hard to say, man. I mean, I've caught both of good size. That's hard, man. I think it depends too. Like I've caught big lake smallmouth and, like you said, 30 foot of water, and that fight right there is usually pretty spectacular. But also catching a big smallmouth in a riffle, that could be fun too. I don't know. I don't have an opinion when it comes to that. I think it's pretty even. And it all depends on the size of the fish too.
All right, 20-inch river smallmouth, 20-inch lake smallmouth.
Ooh. What lake?
Lake Erie, like a fat.
I don't know. Never.
Lake, like a fat. All right, Let me give you.
I would say a lake smallmouth is going to be heavier, right, at 20 inches versus a river.
Yeah. Is it stronger though?
I don't know. Probably be lazier, right?
What gym is it going to?
Yeah.
Gold. CrossFit.
Yeah.
But no, I'll tell you what. So I catch those deep smallmouth like regularly. I mean, these fish I catch in these 30 feet of water, I mean, they're like smallmouth. You know what I mean? They're big, fat, 30 feet deep smallmouth. And I've caught a lot of river smallmouth up to like 19 and a half. I've never caught a 20-inch Ohio river smallmouth, but I've caught plenty 19 halves. Dude, I I think lake smallmouth do fight harder, and so I might get flack for that from guys like Brad or whatever. But like, I'm just telling you. Now, some of it might be the gear you use though too. Like, right? So I'm using spinning rods on the lake versus like if I'm chucking a chatterbait or a buzzbait, like you can kind of hoist those river smallmouth in if you really want to, and not even let them fight. Just kind of like get them in. So. But I'm going with lake because they're so freaking strong. But that's what I go with.
I like it.
Anyway, that's a random topic.
I like it.
It works.
Well, we're a little over an hour here, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we wrap it up, man? Aaron, final thoughts. We'll leave it up to you, my man. Oh, he's pulling a Milford. He was pulling a Milford.
Just kidding.
It would have been funnier if we would have heard water.
Yeah. We should have planned that out.
Yeah.
Like pouring water in a bucket in the corner.
No. Hey, no, I appreciate you guys having me on. I was just watching. I like to casually just stay up with everything as much as I can, and I saw that it was, Chad was having a couple difficulties there. That's fine. I was like, it'd be fun to talk to you guys again. And Oh, here's one question. Another question. Are you guys gonna do not this year maybe, but next year, a listeners bracket for Paddle and Fin? Like a you're not gonna do that. All right, cool. All right, so
sorry, I froze up. What'd you say? Yeah.
Well, I've been gone for a little bit, so I don't know.
Jay's not up on the times, but it's coming.
Touchy subject. All right,
it's coming. It's coming. That's all.
We're good.
It's coming. Good. Trust me. I already told you you're going to get the invite.
Dude, I've been waiting patiently, but I'm kind of glad it didn't happen because literally,
because you're sick.
Because I've been sick. But if I remember like when it was going on and I mentioned it and I heard you say it, you're like, oh yeah, it's coming. And then I started like feeling weird and bad. And then I realized I had that. I was like, oh, I hope they don't contact me about this because I won't be able to do it, But I'm just bored. I need something to do. That's my whole thing now, like spend all my time with my family. But then I'm like, I got to go lightly exercise and I got to,
You know what? We could start the Spreadsheet Steiger Classic.
There we go.
Spreadsheet Steiger Classic. I'll make the spreadsheet. Google Forms.
I would hope so. I'm actually expecting.
But anyway, no, guys, I appreciate you having me on and gave me something to do. Got me out of a little funk. It's good to get just kind of talking again and kind of engaging and some stuff. So it's good. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. It's always good talking with you, brother. Glad to hear you're doing better and the family is healthy and well. And man, just glad to see you and just shoot the breeze with you. Yeah. As always, man.
Yeah. And to wrap it up, guys, if any outdoorsmen or outdoors women out there, like we started the podcast off talking about Lyme disease, just check and double check yourselves when you're out there. I know I do every time now. I'm almost paranoid about it, but it's worth it. Just take the extra couple minutes after you get home, check your clothes, check your vehicle, check your body. And that's that.
Yeah, for sure. And like Aaron said a second ago, we were supposed to have Chad on. He had some connection issues going on, so we have rescheduled that for Thursday. So we next Thursday, that is 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. So we'll have the Hoover on next week. He's going to get that situated, and we got to say a huge thanks to Aaron for stepping in tonight and filling those shoes. And yeah, we just hope everybody's well and having a good time out there. Jay, final thoughts?
I'll do it with a gesture. That's about all I got.
Like we mentioned earlier as well, Jay and I will be up north next week, so we may have a live podcast coming from northern Wisconsin. Let's hope we have signal.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, yeah. So, as always, boys and girls, tight lines, smooth paddle. Peace.